man, I run cameras in those cuts all summer in August, and they're there. I was like, man, if I can they just keep doing the same thing. It seems like they would disappear in those cuts, vanish. And talking to your dad, he's like, well, cherries are a big thing. That's like early September, isn't it? The cherries fall.
Even driving dirt roads that have a canopy of cherries that are over top of it, especially after a rainstorm, you'll start seeing those little black specks, little cherries all through there. And Kenny actually dropped knowledge bomb on me the other day. So how old is this forest? And I'm going through, I was like, I don't know, Kenny. See these dead trees that are laid down? He's like, those are all fire cherries. And he said they die after 30 years. And that's when they fall down, and you could tell by how long that log has been laying there. That's what the age of that forest would be.
A mature deer lives in a mature forest. I don't know why. Like somehow it goes hand in hand.
I was like, well, if I throw a mic on, then I can help others the way that these people have all helped me.
Born in the heart of the Pennsylvania deer camp, with the help of experts, friends, and local legends, we bring you valuable knowledge and powerful stories for your hunting adventures. Welcome to the East Meets West Hunt Podcast with your host, Bo Martonic.
All right, we're live. We're back. Johnny Stewart back on the podcast.
What's happening, Bo?
Not much, man. It's just summertime. You came up to camp, and we got together, do a little bit of podcasting.
Yeah, June, actually. Summer's a couple days away. But yeah, we're right there on the fringe of summer. Power went out here, but Bo said he got enough light here at camp.
Yeah.
He maneuvered my seat here. He moved it around. I kind of might leave it here. I get to look at all my deer heads.
Yeah. Yeah, they are all up in the background. You got the new one here. So if we're on the wide angled camera, everybody will be able to see your one from one of your ones from last year up here. It looks really good.
Yeah, it looks great.
When I came in, you're like, man, he looks bigger than I thought he was.
Yeah, like having the horns without the head. I was like, yeah, he's a good solid deer. Then you get him on the head, and it's like, dang, he's a big deer. He's 145. No, he's a 146, 145. Is that last point's 1 inch, 145-inch 8 point. So that was the highest scoring deer I shot this year, and I got a couple more coming in my New Hampshire deer that had a lot of scars. Had the big deer donkey head, I called it. I wasn't sure if I was going to save the cape. My taxidermist said from dragging it, you drug a lot of hair. So I recently talked to him because I really that's part of the story. That's part of he was up there on that mountain with me, and I hate to use another cape and just have the horns. So I talked to him recently. He said, yeah, we're going to be able to use the cape. He said the where I drug the hair off is more up in the back region. For some reason, the side was more on the shoulder, which you don't see on a shoulder mount. So he said, I think we're going to save it. Maybe have a head on to where you can't see the hair where it came off from dragging him in the back. So I'm excited to get that because that deer was a warrior, dude.
Well, yeah, I would have hated if you had to get a different cape for it because that's all part of it. Like I was just talking to it was Hunter Rude. Him and I were talking the other day, and he had shot a buck in Minnesota that had, I think, a bunch of scars and rips and tears, on its hide, even naturally. And he's like, I want that. And I agree with that too, because it gives that character what that deer was. Plus, I feel like it'd be difficult to find a cape in Pennsylvania that would fit the form that was probably necessary for how big of a body that deer was.
And I was originally looking for a cape up in New England, and he's going to use a form from that the manufacturer from that area. But yeah, with all the scars and that was I need to see. And he usually, my taxidermist usually wants a pretty early season deer. And this was as early as I got. I said, Jim, I'm sorry. I was the best I could do October 17th. I hunted up till then,
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm failing my taxidermist. He said, if anybody can get me an early season deer, you can, John. And I haven't gotten an early season in so long. But he likes them because you have the less, closer to summer, the less hair still growing in its winter coat. And he likes to put you could see the veins and all the muscles and stuff like that. But after talking to him about the New Hampshire deer, it's kind of like his brain shifted to like, man, he just loves them to be pretty.
Mm-hmm.
And he always complains, you give me these late season ones, they're all scarred up and beat. I got this big thick coat, you can't see all the muscles and stuff like that. But I think he's on a page where it's like a different.
Well, he's an artist,
Yeah, so he's like he got a different focus, and he's actually wanting to make it like the warrior he is. The late season, all beat up 10-year-old mountain buck. So that's gonna be. I'm pumped to get that, dude. He'll do a good job. So
I got my Pennsylvania one back, which was October 15th. So and again, nice. I mean, that
was it that late, the 5th? Yeah, I guess you.
It was my first day hunting.
Your first day hunting, but yeah.
But it was the 15th. But I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, like those earlier season hides that you're talking, they are hard to beat when you, as far as like, again, just a pretty looking mount.
Yeah, that was a good deer.
Yeah, I got a spot for him. I just got to hang him up yet.
Are we going to bring the elk over here? I mean, I got a good spot for your elk.
I forgot about that. You told me I could bring one of my elk over. Yeah, I got to do that.
Maybe when I get my other heads and because I'm going to get the ladder out.
Yeah.
We'll hang them up this summer sometime. That'd be cool to have an elk up there. I got a good spot way up high. What's it, 3-4 feet, 40 inches between them windows? I think that'd be perfect,
Yeah. And I've got two of them that don't have a place. So one's a little smaller than the other one. So we'll see which one fits the spot better.
And this one here, I don't know if that's the one in the snow that you helped me drag out. And I heard somewhere, I don't know if I said it on a podcast before, but I think I don't know, it was a biologist or something said 135 to 140 inch 8-point is the best size or the best frame for being the dominant buck in the area. You can get a smaller deer, it's a younger deer, or a big one's the rack's almost too big wide. Guys can get in between, and I always sit and look at that one, and it's like it's symmetric. It's a 137 inch deer is really symmetrical, where the twos are kind of sharp, long, identical, and then they're all kind of pointing different ways. You got your beams like this, the threes and the twos. Like I feel like it's any symmetrical. That's pretty cool. Like it's neat to look at all these deer.
So what you're saying is that they are typically going to be like the bullies of the area, like that frame, the configuration, everything gives them the best advantage. Like with
being a dominant and fighting, that's the 135 to 140 inch, because you're getting into the mature range where you're not probably going to be a 3-year-old. I mean, you could be a 3-year-old, but you're getting into the 4 to 6, chest all brewstered up, puffed out, like wanting to fight and be dominant and stuff like that, So
well, that it's funny. I feel like most of the deer that I shoot are either 8 or 9 points, and they have like my Iowa buck was in that size range, but he broke off his brow tine, and that farmer that lived near this piece of public that we talked to told me that he goes, I've watched that deer last couple of years just running deer off all the time. And like, I mean, I rattled him in and he came in looking for a fight, but he had that frame of like, that could do some damage
to the other deer. Yeah. That's what they say. So that video, when's that coming out, Bill?
That video is coming out end of August.
So Chris told me, he said, man, I guess you kind of showed him some of it. And he said, that's probably the best video I ever seen that can be on YouTube.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
that's what he told me.
I didn't know if Chris did. Yeah, we watched it at Attack. I put it up on the I forgot about that. We put it up on the screen. We were having a couple bourbons, so I didn't know if he was just being nice, but he must.
Our buddy Chris Toomey.
Oh, Toomey. Oh, yeah. Chris Wheeler watched it too, I think. Okay, no, that's what. Okay,
Chris Toomey.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I respect Chris Toomey saying that. Yeah. That's awesome.
He said it's probably the best YouTube video I've seen as far as deer hunting.
Well, Thomas
is
Clements, who did it,
makes you look good.
He's the best. Yeah, exactly. He's the best, one of the best out there, and I owe that to him more than it was me or anything with it. He can make things look awesome, so it's pretty cool. And that hunt was, using the boat going in and doing everything there, and it's just a picturesque spot. It made
That's
for
cool.
a good
Makes
video.
you see it good.
Yep. No, I got that one coming out in the end of August, and then my moose hunt will be out next month in July. I think it's like July 12th. I'm putting that out. So that'll be cool to get that out and show it. And then I've got one other film that's going to be my Ohio deer. That one I'm going to probably put out in October because that was a late season hunt. So
you
I'm kind
did
of
get the shot on film. I remember you said good.
Yep, I got it was on my DJI, so I was self filming while I did it. But I think it'll turn out pretty good. So I've got Justin editing that, and I got that footage from when I hunted in October. So bow hunted there and then went into the late season and gun season there. So I think it'll make it's not going to be as the production quality that you'd see from the Iowa one, but I think it'll be a cool video. Yeah. Do you have any that you held on to?
Yeah, the New Hampshire one.
You're right. I forgot you didn't put that out yet.
See, I'm going to work on it this summer. We're going to kind of edit it. And I had a cameraman the first 2 days, actually Connor, he was good enough with the camera, and I missed a deer. But he was able to film me tracking the deer. I end up killing 2 days later. So I have kind of a story leading up to me killing, and then I just had my DJI over my shoulder when I shot. So some pretty good film. But one thing I didn't do is, like, once I shot the deer, I didn't set up the DJI and like talk about it and hold a deer. Like, not for everybody else, but for me, it's like, it's probably my best hunt ever. And I was kicking myself that I didn't have me holding the deer. I was so worried about taking photos because I've been going with the cameraman to where I don't worry about it because someone else is taking photos. And I'm like, so I set my phone up and I took pictures and I sat there for an hour, but I didn't set up the video and have me like how everybody does. Yeah, that's where I got. I tracked them up here. So whatever, it'll be good.
Hey, what you could do is you could take clips from the podcast that we did of you telling the story.
Yeah.
And I could give you that footage, and you could at least put that in the background narrating a little
probably.
bit.
So that's something we're going to work on this summer. And I might try to do a scouting video here maybe in July to put out like just a summer scouting video.
You definitely should. I think that would be good. It's been fun to watch the channel grow, and you do that now for 2 years, getting to put out videos and doing it. It's been, from everybody I've talked to, it's been received really well.
Good. Yeah.
And it's growing faster than any new channel that comes on board, which is pretty cool to be able to see. So no, that's awesome. Definitely, anybody listening or watching, make sure you check out Johnny's video, which if you're watching on YouTube, we'll probably have this collaborated so you can find it either way there, and you can easily subscribe to his channel. But I'm excited to see that New Hampshire one too, because like the way you've talked about that hunt, and you've been able to hunt all over the country and plenty of places, but I feel like you've talked about that hunt more than any others because it was like that impactful for you.
It was, like that was my best hunt ever. And we did like we lost some footage somehow. We got it. I don't know if we didn't put it in a Dropbox. We put it on
an SD card,
not the SD, but USB, like the little thumb drive or something, and somehow got corrupted. So we were able to recover some, but some of it didn't have volume. When I was tracking the one, I shot it a few days earlier, but I think it'll be cool.
Yeah.
I did set the camera up when I was dragging them out. Like, I've seen guys do where you set it up. So I dragged by the camera.
Yeah.
And the one I had to lower him down some rocks with like the rope, and I kind of have some of that.
Wasn't it so hard? If you're self-filming, I'm so bad at it because it's like in the moment, it takes so much extra effort to get all that stuff. And it's not even just the effort, it's thinking about doing it in that time because you're focused on, especially in your situation. If anyone hasn't listened to the last podcast Johnny and I did back in January of the story of that, like you drug them a long ways in the snow, you didn't have any water, you didn't have any food.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to get your brain firing at all cylinders to remember to get all that stuff too.
I think dragging out was pretty tough, so I was able to, when I was taking my breaks, that was like a break. I set the camera up, so I would drag them 50, 60 feet. And I'm like, and then I would, instead of just sitting there panting like a dog, I said, well, I'll set the camera here.
Mhm.
I went out 20, 30 feet and I just like drug it past the camera, like, and it was even into the dark because it showed like 2, 3 o'clock. I drug them, and then, but yeah, the only thing I didn't get was me holding them. But I got some footage with my phone. Oh, and then the next day we hung it up at Connors, taking pictures and skinning it in his front yard in the snow and 20 degrees, and I didn't get any footage of that. Like, what's wrong with me? Like, I'm trying to make a video here. That would have been so sick, dude. And guys are coming up the road, it's hung and like stopping, checking it out. It was pretty wild. And I'm like, all I had to do was set a camera up and just let it play.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And I kicked myself.
Yeah.
Well, I was focused. I was like, Sunday, I was like, I got to pack up. I got to get out, or I got to go to PA and hunt. Like, I'm wanting to go kill something. It's like a drug, you get your fix.
Yep.
All right, I got to get somewhere else. I'm like, yeah, don't worry about the footage. But then after the fact, you're like, I wish. And it's not even for everybody else. It's for like me looking back on my hunts.
Yeah.
I capture everything. So.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the hard parts about it. And when you can have a good, I mean, that's for me, it's like if I have a hunt that I really am worried about having filmed, if possible, like you do, having someone there with you to capture it, because you'll, at least myself, I'll never be able to do as good as having somebody with a camera behind me. So that definitely makes it a little bit more difficult. But I was thinking about it. Well, actually, I want to call myself out here on the podcast, because I told you last year, or you asked me to borrow a pack frame, and I told you I was going to give one to use, and I never did.
Yeah, I want to get that off you, whether I buy it. I'm going to get one to have with me, and just take every trip I go on.
Yeah, just to have it.
Yeah, it seems like everywhere I go, I'm way back in the woods, and I'm better off packing it. But that deer there in particular, you had to take the carcass and everything out.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about those regulations that were there.
So I probably could have, but I did want to like, I feel like being here, like chances are I wouldn't pack a deer here, because you want to get them back to camp. You want to hang them up. You want, I don't know, just something about bringing them out and like up in the North Woods. That's what guys have done for years.
That's the tradition of it.
Yeah. So like I want to, that's how I want it. I don't want to butcher them up in a forest and bring out in pieces. Yeah, it might be easier, but I'm not out there to have an easy hunt.
Well, it would be, but what would be cool is hanging them up from the Kunai, if you're, like you did in West Virginia, and skinning them, that way in the woods. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that thing worked good for that.
Yeah,
it's just enough distance off the tree too.
Yep.
Anything smaller, be up against a tree. You could spin them around there at 16, 20 inches, whatever it is.
Yeah, 20 inches long there. So that kind of, this is kind of where I wanted to take this episode a little bit, was, we're talking about summertime here, being here. Last year you had arguably your best season ever. What does that look like going into this year? Obviously you were out a bunch, scouting in the spring before you got busy with work and everything coming into the summer. Like, how are you viewing this year based off of, your success last year? Does that play into it at all? Or what's your thought process there?
Every year compounds into the next year, I think, and having so many years. And I think having done this a long time, that someone that's younger, I feel like you're still finding your good locations. You know what I mean? Like, it's all boots on the ground. You're going to read your maps. You're going to learn a ton, but you really got to get out there. And, say you're in your 20s or maybe 30, you haven't, I mean, it just takes time to be in the woods in different states, like, I remember years ago, you even told me not even that long ago, like, I learned this area, and I know I could probably kill deer, but I'm going to go check a new area. It's like learning and figuring out a new area. So I think doing that so many years, that I have a ton of good areas. Like, I don't know what kind of analogy I can say, but it's like I have a ton of good areas, and some are better than others. And that's just from being out there 30 some years. So you can like maybe take best of the best area and go there first, or you can recognize what is better and why it's better just from experience in all those areas. But yeah, it compounds from last year. I'm still hunting the same areas, scouting, or the same deer. Also adding a couple new areas each year. And then you take 30 years of adding new areas. You got hundreds of areas to where if I was 25, I'd have some good areas. But it's just, it's a playing the, you know what I mean? It's the average, like you have a ton of areas, then you're able to get some of them that are really good. But I thought about last year's hunting, and I'm like, yeah, I'm hunting kind of this same area, same deer, but all the deer I shot last year were all new areas. Like this one in Ohio, the one place wasn't as good. The acorn wasn't producing. So that was a new area I found first day archery season. And then the next deer I shot was a new area in North Dakota. But Bill and I were out there in September, hung cameras. I never hunted there before, but you start to recognize patterns as we talk about what looks good and stuff like that. Then I think West Virginia was a new area, and then the New Hampshire one. I've never been there, but then again, I had help from Connor, and even West Virginia. James sent me in a good area, but I feel like as you get into winter, and find or learn of some deer that made it, and you kind of start predicting where you want to be next hunting season. So yeah, like here in PA, I found some good horns late season. So I have deer that I'm going to hunt, or areas, locations, and also and then when I'm doing my shed hunting scouting, I'm also not just the areas I hunted this previous season, but areas that I know deer winter, or checking new areas. I think it's just time in the woods, dropping pins on Spartan Forge, I've been taking pictures and writing notes, because if you have 400 scrape pins, I would take a picture and write a note when I found it. I think that's a big help in my journal, but also like a feeding acorn crop, like acorns here, the date and time already populates acorns here this hunting season, or this scrape was hot, deer were hitting it, or this was a buck bed. I take a picture of it, so it populates the date. So when I click on the rub or scrape it, the date's there, but also I write a little message in there, so I can, because then you didn't used to do that, but now you get so many pins, I could look in there and read about it. But yeah, so a lot of scouting over the years, and dropping pins, and learning new areas, and adding areas on top of that, I think is the start of it, coming into summertime.
Mm-hmm.
So I already got, and then where the deer were in hunting season aren't always where they're going to be in the summer. We're talking mountain areas. They have maybe a wintering area, or an area that they are during hunting season. To me, I call these safe areas where they want to be, or like breeding areas. But summertime is different. We're worried about food and water, covers everywhere. We're not so much worried about cover, because it's everywhere. So like they're going to be feeding definitely near some water. So that's the biggest thing I'm looking for. So even though I found them eating acorns, and I found horns here, I'm not going to put my cameras there this summer. Now, if there's not acorns there this fall, I might drop a camera on a scrape or somewhere. Like the area I was hunting this year had patches of acorns. Now next year, I don't think are going to be there. But I will still run cameras, like where I found a couple of them sheds where bucks were bedded. And I'm talking about these safe areas during hunting season, in a rifle into January. I'll run cameras there come into November when the Orange Army's out hunting. They might go back to these safe areas, even though there's no mass there, it might be a safe area. And this area I'm just thinking about in particular was rugged, steep, leeward, which is a rule of thumb that I find for these deer, hard to access. But now looking into summer to get inventory, I'm just going to look at Spartan Forge. Where's the 20 minus cuts at? 20 down. You get into 20 some. There's some daylight to get some briars and stuff like that. 20 to 30, depending on what kind of stand it is. But definitely the 5 to 6 to 4 to 3-year-old cuts. Some water nearby. So basically, I'm running cameras in these locations all summer, randomly putting them out. I put a few out. I think I was in West Virginia, a couple up here. So kind of like at the tail end of scouting, April into May, turkey. It's when I start. I already got my knowledge from my shed hunting, scouting, and all my knowledge from the previous year. And all my focus is, where are they going to be this summer? I want to get just strictly inventory pictures of these deer. A few I might put out in areas that are going to be good during hunting season, the safe areas, or where there might be some mast, if it's an area I'm not going to get to till hunting season. But for the most part, I'm just putting cameras out here up and through July, end of July, and I'll check them before the transition to velvet comes off in around that time period to get inventory. And then I would take that knowledge and make my next move with my cameras. And like I said, all your experience being in the woods and your historical data of hunting those locations. And like I said, being in the woods is the biggest thing, because you get to the point where you become the animal itself and you know how to navigate. And I've told people that areas I've hunted, even this year in West Virginia, a certain area I hunted, every night I would study that map, and I could probably close my eyes and draw the mountain within 1 square mile. Like right now, I could do it, because I get to the point where I know the lay of the land and where the deer are going to want to go. And so your biggest tool is the Spartan Forge app to help you, but still, you need to instinctively be able to navigate through the woods like a deer would, and know what they want and stuff like that. And then it'll help you tremendously to be in all that forest. And springtime's your best time to do a lot of that scouting and intimately know that land. And so, yeah.
How much weight do you put on pictures that you get in the summertime? Like, as far as that knowledge for hunting purposes versus, inventory, then, like, because, like, I guess the way I look at summertime for putting out trail cameras is that I've done more summer scouting in recent years than I used to do. And a lot of times, if it's an area that I don't know when I'm going to get back to, or as I call it, like an exploratory area, like a new place, I'm typically putting them up more focused on the fall. Like, it'll be a bonus if I got a buck that came through there in the summertime. Like, it's focused on those camera locations that I want to put them on for the fall. But then there's some that I'm specifically trying to get
Inventory.
Summer, inventory. Did this buck make it through? I couldn't find his sheds, or, like we were just talking earlier, I went to a spot this morning to put up a camera, trying to find a buck that I hadn't had pictures of since the beginning of October. Couldn't find his sheds. I have no idea if he was even alive, but in previous years, I'd get pictures of him in August in this one clear cut. So I was like, okay, that's what I want to, do. But that camera is just like a summertime camera. It seems like after that, in that particular spot, it kind of dries up.
Yeah, I mean, that's what your cameras are, mainly inventory. But like you said, if it's a place you're not going to get to till the fall, like I did a couple in West Virginia. I found some beds when I was shed hunting that I feel like a deer are going to utilize, possibly summer, I don't know. But I put it in an area where, this was probably April. I put it in an area where you're not going to pick up a lot of leaves and limbs and ferns in the summer, because they're just going to eat your camera up. So kind of like a barren area.
Yep.
Maybe more of a mature area, or I know it's hard to say, but yeah. And then when I didn't put it on the scrape in April, and that's a camera I'm not going to check till like September, October. I'm going to go back then. So it was off 20, 30 feet off of the scrape to where chances are if he hits a scrape or comes on that trail, I'll still catch him. But there were so many limbs and striped maple. Like, I was like, if I leave this, it was April. And I didn't really put it out. I come upon that spot in March shed hunting. And I was hesitant to put even camera there because I could see all the saplings. I was like, man, it's going to be a jungle with leaves. It was up on a ridge. But I went back scouting another area close by in April, and I said, you know what, I got to get a camera because I don't know if I'm going to come back till September, October. And I went all the way up on that mountain, and I could now see the leaves forming and kind of see where it's going to be thick, and it was a little more open over here. So I put the camera so I can still catch it. But another thing about this area, when we were there in April, there was deer living up on that mountain. No, March, my bad. We were jumping deer up there, which is fine. They're still eating acorns. But when I was in some areas in April, what made me put that camera way up on that mountain, I was learning that even the browse that was starting to come up in the valley floor, it seemed like that would come up first before way up on a mountaintop. But man, I found a lot of deer, jumping deer in April, way up on that mountain. I thought a lot of deer would come down in the lower elevation, the lush bottoms, grass, more of a topsoil, like good conditions.
Yeah.
Along the roads and stuff like that, lower elevation. But when I was there in April, I'm like, you know what, there's deer up here now. It was, they must live up there all year. I know sometimes you get higher up, it's hotter, but sometimes you get so high up, it gets a little cooler. There's less bugs in some rugged mountainous areas like New Hampshire or like West Virginia. But there's less browse, but deer were up there, man. So I said, man, I could get the camera near the scrape and I won't come back till September, October. But I feel like I was jumping deer up there in April. I was seeing shit with green in it. Like they're up there browsing. I found beds with hair in April. And I said, well, I might as well get a camera here because I might get a combination where it be some summertime activity way up on that mountain. And also with that scrape being there coming into October, there's definitely deer going to be using it. So yeah, just always thinking, and always being in the woods, I wouldn't have thought early April when stuff greens up, I thought they'd be down because it's so green down low in the valleys and that. But I was jumping deer where there's hardly any browse. Like on an oak ridge and that, you don't get a lot of browse. Like, you know what I mean? But I think these deer probably live up here all year.
Yeah.
So then it was like, hey, I might as well put a camera now because there's not a lot of cuts in the area. Big mature woods. I might catch them. I probably will catch them being there to scrape. I know they utilize scrapes. It was on kind of a little bit of a travel corridor to me, where I'm probably anxious to see, coming to September, October, whenever I can get down there. And I'm hoping to get there in September to start seeing acorns. Now, yesterday I was cutting down an oak tree and I already found acorns, and I seen a white oak today. They were like probably as big as my pinky fingernail. So you could start seeing them, but, to go out in the forest and look up in a tree.
Not until really August before you're
August and into September, so I'd like to get down there in September to check those cameras. But yeah, for summertime, whether it is that situation where I can get a combination of deer using it in the summer and also an active scrape in October or a massed acorn crop, or great, let's get a camera out to check. Might be good all year. It was a hunch of mine, hey, they're shitting, there's green shit, they're up here now, and there's a scrape here. Let's get a camera for I don't know the area well enough, and the camera will give you intel on the deer that are living there, and maybe they'll still be there in October, and so just dropping cameras, reading maps, just plugging away at it. Most people are busy in the summer working or whatever, so it's like I'll get I'll write in my journal or just in my phone. I'll write where I want to. I just text myself, so I write notes in my phone where places I want to check out and scout, and I just keep plugging away at it. Like put some cameras out in April, maybe one or two in March, and here at end of June, I'll when I have a day or two, just keep dropping cameras all the way up through probably have most of them out by August, but just plugging away and reading my notes and off of historical data and where I want to check next year, and just keep dropping cameras. And like I said, mainly summertime inventory, but like the situation for West Virginia, it was kind of a combination, summer and maybe fall hunting. So it was good to find a location like that. But I feel like most of my cameras I put out through the summer are inventory, but I feel like there is a transition in September when they start rubbing their velvet, where they're coming out of like a summer living, feeding type situation and into more of a rutting or fall, like shorter daylight, rubbing velvet and exploring other deer. But all my cameras I put out, not all my cameras, a lot of the cameras that are out in the summer are for the summer inventory, but hopefully before the transition of the
that fall shift,
hopefully I can catch and hunt a deer still in some summer activity, in that end of September, first week of October. I feel like you have maybe a week there, and the earlier the season starts for us here in PA, the better, to where you can catch them. It doesn't always work out. I haven't shot an early season deer, but I've been trying to.
Yeah.
So they're already either shifting or, and I think a big thing, and I talked to your dad about it, I deer hitting browse cuts, whether it's 2 to 6 year old, good vegetation, a lot of a variety of browse, new growth. I have some bachelor bucks and bucks utilizing these areas, whether it's night, day, a lot of daytime activity. And I try to catch them deer in the end of September, October. But I found a lot of these deer disappear, and I said to Joe, I said, I feel like I know where they're at in the summer browsing, but come the time to hunt, they're not in them browse, them 3 to 6 year old cuts. Now, these cuts I'm talking about were select cuts that have a ton of cover.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking like that's your food plot. You could see a good distance, but when you're in your August, September, there's no big predators as far as hunters, and that's there's a little more cover because of the green. I feel like that's their main food source, and they retreat back into some mature woods, down lower elevation, creeks, cooler areas, more cover. But I thought maybe I can over the years, get on a fringe, like maybe an early morning hunt, catch them leaving them, because they'll lay over in those cuts into the gray light into morning before they retreat to their beds. And man, I run cameras in those cuts all summer in August, and they're there. I was like, man, if they just keep doing the same thing, I could set up down in the woods, maybe near a spring or something where I know they're going to retreat to and bed for the day. But it seems like they would disappear in those cuts, vanish. So I had a hard time. And talking to your dad, he's like, well, cherries are a big thing up here. Last year we had a bad crop, but I think they get into the mature woods and feed on. You figure you've been eating browse all summer. It's like eating the same thing all year. And you're like, hey, I got something different happening.
Yeah, all of a sudden we got apple pie, and it's like,
yeah,
maybe
like,
I want a little bit of that.
Yeah, haven't had apple pie all year, and now it's like it's down in the woods. There's apple pies. Like, I'm not going to go eat this garbage up in the cut, But that's a variety that just comes on. That's like early September, isn't it? The cherries fall.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly. So yeah, sometimes even with rainstorms, it can be in August. How I'll know is if I even drive in dirt roads that have a canopy of cherries that are over top of it, and you start seeing, especially after a rainstorm, you'll start seeing those little black specks, little cherries all through there. You can tell if it's going to be a good year. You'll even see them when they're green, if they kind of like acorns when they blow off after a rainstorm. Similarly to that, but when I start seeing it, I'm going in scout and say I'm parked at at a gate and I'm walking back in, and all of a sudden I start just seeing black specks all over the ground. I was like, okay, this has been an adjustment. Like the food sources are changing, and they're able to get them now. Sometimes you'll find those cuts that do have, a bunch of cherries or whatever that mass crop is dropping in there, and that's an ideal scenario. But I ran into a situation last year. Actually, it's on. Anybody that's listening can watch it on YouTube. I did a scouting video last year. It was an area I hadn't been to in like 10 years. And Justin and I went there and we were glassing it. It was a cut. And at the time when I used to hunt it years ago, there wasn't a cut there. But it's growing up, probably 4 or 5 years old now, so it's hard to see, but I was able to glass, and I was watching some nice velvet bucks, and I watched them one morning go down off the hillside.
I remember
you did. We literally just followed them down in there, jumped them out of their beds down off this hill, and I put a camera up, and I was like, this spot is money. And I was like, actually, I could see them using this all year. Now, it was really good in the summer because that spot where they're bedding at, just below the cut, mature woods, a nice bench there, and then there was a real good spring seat filled with jewelweed, and you could see them eating the crap out of that. And it was an incredible summer spot. There was all the bucks that we saw. The one was on there daily. I
remember you told me that. Yeah,
and then once. There's a couple things I think could have impacted this. One of them, it seemed like when that fall shift happened, he was gone. And I saw him one time again at night going through there. I also had people not supposed to ride four-wheelers up through. I could tell looked like an old four-wheeler trail that went through there. It was a logging road, but there was a big tree down. Well, someone brought a chainsaw and cleaned it up. So there was definitely some pressure that was added to it, but it absolutely vanished. And now the deer that were in there they weren't so good that I put a bunch of emphasis into it this spring as far as find it. Now I did go and turkey hunt the area to try to find some different spots. I did find some places I think they could shift to, but sometimes you find those spots and it is kind of mind-boggling of trying to figure out, because the thing I've learned, or at least I've been fooled with before, is thinking that they vacate the area and are going miles away, which sometimes can be the case, but other times they could be still really close or just not in that exact spot where your camera's at too. So it's trying to figure out those differences. I at least for me, it takes a while to learn those specific areas and how those deer shift and move.
It is tough when you get into a bigger forested area. Like our areas are pretty flat with browse. You do have some cuts. And another big thing is that your dad told me is, and I do see a lot, they eat a lot of mushrooms. And I think that's a huge thing, especially in the recent years, maybe it's because I'm not in the woods as much in the summer, but really being observant when I'm in the forest and seeing a variety of mushrooms all through the forest up here. And that's getting into my September, a little bit cooler. And I had a picture last year of a deer up here, had my camera on video, and he went up inside. There was a stump just a couple feet in front of my camera. And he stuck his nose up in a rotted stump, and I went around and looked. He had mushrooms in there. And then my hunt in late season in West Virginia this year, where there was snow on the ground, I knew this buck was hanging out on this point, and I kind of encompassed the point, and he kind of went to the point, and it was thick, so I stayed off the point and kind of went all the way around it. And there was acorns on that point. He had come down off the point, crossed the drain, and I seen his tracks went across the drain, up, and then back to the point. He went up to a dead cherry tree limb that was kind of up off the ground out of the snow. There was a lichen or a fungus or some type of shelf, little orangish mushrooms. He went up and down each side, ate the mushrooms, and he went specifically to that tree, ate the mushrooms, and went back up on a bed on his point. So I think, man, I'm starting to learn like there's a lot of food out there, and a lot of it isn't always in the cuts. It's in these mature forests. I feel like a lot of these, it's like a mature deer lives in a mature forest. I don't know why. Like somehow it goes hand in hand. Like I'm seeing that over time with these deer that are 8, 10 years old. Not saying they're in a cut. They're not in the cuts. But I just feel like this is how they lived for years, and it's weird. Like it's like a correlation between a mature forest and a mature buck.
Well, even like the mushrooms, I tend to find them more like once a cut will get to that 20, 25-year-old pole stand, starting to get closer to a mature forest of, that's when you're starting to see them on them dead logs and everything, like those mushrooms that are in those places. And Kenny actually dropped knowledge bomb on me the other day. So Kenny Kane, our forester buddy's been on the podcast a bunch. Kenny, he was walking a property and he asked me if I wanted, he was in the area where I was at the time, and he's like, hey, you want to come walk this property with me? I said, yeah, we're going through. And he's like, how old is this forest? And I'm going through. I was like, I don't know, Kenny.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was like, I said, I really don't know. Tell me. And he's like between 30 and 35 years old. And I was like, because when they get to that age, I was like, I really don't know.
It's hard to tell.
And I said, how do you know? And he said, see these dead trees that are laid down? He's like, those are all fire cherries. And he said, they die after 30 years. And that's when they fall down. And you could tell by how long that log has been laying there. That's what the age of that forest would be. And so that was a little knowledge bomb he dropped on me, which I do feel like he might have told me that before, or maybe my dad did, and I didn't totally pick up on it, but it's stuck in my head ever since he showed me that, because I think understanding those forest types is so important to be able to do it. But you're right, we do put a lot of emphasis on the cuts because there is such a variety of food that is in there. But just like humans, I mean, deer like a variety of food sources that are outside of just that new growth that's in there. But
now, fire cherry, is that a birch?
You're asking the wrong guy that.
I thought it was a black birch. It's called fire cherry.
Is it?
I don't know. We'll have to ask Kenny.
I thought it was maybe some sort of cherry tree.
That's what I thought too. And I think your dad told me that it was a.
I mean, that would make. I mean, it seems like birch trees don't live.
But them pole stands of birch.
Yeah.
And you see them all. How they always fall and they're like toothpicks all through the woods. Like you rarely see cherries.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think it's a birch.
Maybe someone will correct us, I'm sure. Or I'll get a hold. I don't have service right now here, but if I did, I'd text Kenny and try to get an answer. He'll probably be disappointed that we don't know. We've been hanging around him.
I think it is birch.
But paying attention to those different food sources, and even like the different times of year when they're eating those different things. Like summertime, some of my best spots that I've had for summer inventory have been places that have, because there is food pretty much everywhere, but has that food, has that water, and it doesn't need to be a ton of water, but has some sort of water and like coolness to it. Because like places that like spring seeps, I love spring seeps early and late season. I think they can be really good spots, but like early in summertime and going through it, that's when you got the jewel weed and everything there. But after September, it's like jewel weed's not something that
jewel weed and the stinging nettle.
Yep.
I don't find them eating as much up here as other locations, or maybe they're just ain't. What's good about our forest up here is when I'm out in the summer, we have a good population of deer, but I'll find areas that haven't been browsed. Has new growth that's it's not like the landscape's overbrowsed.
Yeah.
So it might be that they're not eating the stinging nettles much because there's just so much variety, so much plant life, and the deer can't overbrowse it, which is a good thing. And I remember last year, all the scouting I did, I was happy to see a bunch of stuff that hasn't been browsed that's good.
Yeah.
That means there's plenty of food. So we're doing pretty good.
That there's a good balance between the population of deer.
We have a fair amount of deer. And I think some of the cuts they do in my area, I think this is just my opinion. Kenny would probably know. Seems like they select cut or do a lot of areas with a close proximity over like 2 or 3 years, and I feel like it's so the deer can't come in and browse all the areas up, even if deer, they come in to some degree. If you only have a 40 and a 30 acre, and there's no other cut, and there's nothing else around, where it's just going to eat everything in that 40 or 30 acre. But when they start doing 30 here, 20 there, 20 there, 40 there, 60 there, 80 there, and you're just like, then the deer can't compete.
Yeah, there's too much food. So like even and we've seen it in these places, like in a lot of the areas that we hunt that do have a lot of cuts and a lot more cuts in the last 5-10 years. The deer population has increased. Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the carrying capacity is there because there is so much food that they're able to.
We have a lot of deer.
Yeah, which that wasn't the case 10 years ago. Even. It's good, but it's funny that you still sometimes you can hunt and not see any.
Yeah,
but
down in West Virginia, some of the areas they do a lot more clear cutting in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And you think, like when I was down here this March, I was even April, the clear cuts are like, I'm talking like a 4-year-old cut. It's like a wall. It's like, I always like look at a select cut. Sometimes it don't give you enough daylight to get the regrowth. But then you took a clear cut. It gets like a wall of briars and shit. You can't even walk through it,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, the deer aren't even. It seemed like the deer trails were going around. They didn't even go in there because it was like, I couldn't even get in there. It was a wall of briars. Like, and I found one cut. It was kind of like a square on this hillside, and the deer, there's this heavy trail going funneling below it. It was like dirt because they didn't even like. So I don't know what they're thinking as far as the practice of a clear cut. Maybe that wall keeps animals out of there. Is that you know what I'm saying? But it was a legit wall of briars that the deer weren't even. They like a buck. I could see maybe your deer going in 20 feet and laying down, but they're not going. They're not. I don't even think because I tried finding a trail that went to the middle and I was all around it. Like they don't even go in it. But there was a lot of in the mature woods had a lot of good browse, in April. But I don't know much about clear cutting practices. We'll have to talk to Kenny. Like a lot of the other states I learned still do, even in New Hampshire, different states, Ohio, they're still clear cutting. So, and I know we don't do it as much here, but
it's more like stages of the cuts, and like Kenny's explained it on here before, but like where they'll go through select cut, let those feed trees until they get the new growth they're looking for, then they might come through and cut those, mature trees. Once they get to past the browse line, they get to that sustainable, place to be able to grow. But you talk about blackberry briars, and that's something they do love to feed on in the summertime.
A lot of protein, and I heard that. I think I'm not making that one up. I heard it somewhere.
Okay. The ferns got the vitamin C, and the blackberry briars have the protein.
It's like a protein bar, man.
I like it. I can't say yes or no to that. I don't know the answer to it. I just know
protein
they like
powder.
I just know they like
shaker bottle.
Yeah.
They go get for the blackberries. Trying to beef up.
You try to beef up.
Getting that protein.
I mean, a lot of the productive spots I've had are associated with blackberries as far as getting photos in the summertime, and then even browse in early season. Then after that, it seems like it's not as important until then late season again. Greenbrier, blackberry briars, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. You get in, and that's great when you start into June into July, getting in these cuts, and you look like someone went through with a weed whacker. Put a camera up, you'll catch some July, August inventory. And that's a long enough time frame, like July and August, to where if there's a good deer in the area, chances are you're going to catch them. Sometimes I'll put a camera kind of where a drain, like I remember like that one spot you had, comes up into the cut. So you have like some cover to where a deer, maybe thermals are pulling, maybe at the head of that drain, an inside corner, or just something. I mean, even a low spot out in the cut, I've learned just in a flatter area, I feel like they can really sense that deer's lower to the ground. So every little bit of change in elevation, they can really feel that. And them low points hold scent. And, you can, if you look out 100, I know being out in Iowa and stuff and Midwest, you see a field and you driving along the road and then there's a deer there. I didn't see it because you get a little like this in the land. They could really sense that and feel that. So
yeah,
when you're out in these bigger cuts, maybe a single hemlock, some shade, a little bit of cover, maybe a drain that comes up into that cut where they can enter and exit, or just a low spot, just anything a little bit different to catch inventory picks, and I do feel like they're going to be, like I said, I'm talking select cutting because that's what I have a lot of around here, to where you don't have enough cover. A fresh 2 to 3 might have treetops in that, but you get to the 3, 4, they're rotted out, and the select cut doesn't. A lot of them don't have the undergrowth for cover. So I feel like a lot of these deer are going to retreat to like cooler areas, maybe hemlocks, mature forests, dead logs, stuff like that. I feel like for the daytime and in the night times when they're out moving through those areas and stuff like that. So I tend to start hunting, getting into those mature areas, but there's not a lot of deer trails and a lot of sign. They just kind of, and some there could be tons of mature forests that all have that same thing. Some cooler, lower elevation spring, like dead logs, hemlocks. Like, John, that's everywhere. I'm like, well, they are everywhere. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not when you're in that summer going into your fall, when you can possibly hunt. It's a very difficult time, like end of September, into October. I know, talking to you last year, I've been hunting this area for 20 years. I was like, Bo, I don't even know where to hunt. Like, it's the first week of October. This sucks, man. I don't even know. So,
well, so another thing I've learned through the years is, especially in places where, if I have cameras set up that's more for the fall, like rut type cameras, place I'm not going back to, but I have them there in the summer because let's say I have the time in the spring, I might throw a camera up, or in the summer so I don't forget, put that there. I will typically get a buck. I might get what seems like a random buck in August that shows up, like just shows up for a day, and he's there. It's like, where did he come from? And I don't see him again until the rut, when they do those. And I've seen it in GPS studies where they will leave and go check their rut areas, get the status of like
who's
the
there,
does, what's going on, like going to check those places out, doing a little bit of a roam, and then they might summer somewhere else, whether it's far away or maybe not that far away, but they'll check it out in August. It seems like that first week of August there, I see that a decent amount. So
and I think that time frame, and I've heard that before, makes sense. Because, things pretty crazy in spring as far as does rearing their fawns and stuff like that. I feel like once they're old enough into August, the doe they start getting back together and to kind of settle into where they might be. So, like, he's not just randomly doing it. Like, August is a good time when the fawns are big enough. Chances are the predators, they're not to the infancy level where the predators are going to get them. They can get away and stuff like that, and does start grouping back up, and that and we're not into the rutting, the breeding. The days are still long, but it's like, okay, now everybody's settled into some areas, these does and stuff. So yeah, I think you can get them bucks checking out these areas.
Yep.
For sure. But yeah, I think a lot of the hunting, most of it is inventory in the summer in these areas where your deer, and like I said, if you can get them out for 8 weeks, chances are you're going to catch the deer there. And I haven't seen them where, like, I'd have them in this cut, and then over here a mile I'd have them there. Then chances are in them 8 weeks, the deer that are like inhibiting that area, you're going to catch them if it's a likely spot. You might have to put 2-3 cut cameras in a cut.
Yeah, and I think something you just said there is really important. Is especially in the summertime, you can't be as aggressive. Which I don't like doing this anyways, but you can't be as aggressive with moving cameras if you're not seeing something in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, you're right.
Because it might be where you're only getting them once a month or something.
Yeah.
That's in there, but when you're looking at it to just know this deer is alive, that now you can start, whether you're pulling from the scouting you did in the spring to help try to predict where he's going to be in the fall, or wait until September to see what the acorn crop's going to look like, or apples, or whatever else that might be, is letting them soak during that time period is even more important than the fall, in my opinion.
Yep. That's why I said and I don't look at it like, hey, I need 40 cameras. I just chip away at it.
Yep.
Take like my last little bit of scouting I did in April. I started dropping cameras, or like turkey. And I feel like when I get into like spring turkey, it starts greening up and I like panic, like I panic. I'm like, oh, I need to check these areas. And then like I got to get down to Ohio, West Virginia. And it's like up here, it's a little bit later. And I panic. I was like, oh, I hope we got some colder, like I want colder weather and stuff. So like, I hope it delays the growth down there. Then I find myself in May in a jungle in Ohio, and like still like, cause I'm like, I don't want it to end, because it's before we get leaf off or whatever, it's going to be November. So this is my last hurrah to get some scouting in. So I kind of panic and I get scouting in April, because I got to get here and there. But also my rule is to take at least 2 cameras with you, because if you take that one, boy, you look for that best spot and you walk back to your car and you still got your camera. You find it. So I always take 2 or 3, and at least I find what I think is a decent spot. I'll throw a camera, but by the time I get to the car, that might have been the best spot. But you find it's like, it's all right, I should leave a camera. Nah, it's almost like you're gambling. I find me a better spot.
Because you could walk and there are 300 yards and there's this dynamite spot. So you don't, that one camera, you don't want to set it there and save it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's, you taught me that lesson a while back. And it's like, I make that a point to have, I still screw it up sometimes.
Yeah.
But like, I try to at least have 2, except for I had it this year in the spring. I was out of state in a spot and I went in there and I brought, what did I bring? I brought 2 with me. I brought 1 traditional camera, 1 cell camera. Well, the area had no cell service at all. So pretty much I had that
you
one.
Had your one camera.
I had that one camera, and I was doing that, and I was kicking myself, and it was a hard to reach area. So I didn't want to carry like a bunch of cameras in. And I said, I think I ended up setting it in a really good spot, but there was like 2 or 3 other spots that I need to get back in there, and I ran out of time in the spring. So I'm probably going to be doing the jungle hike this summer to try to drop those places in, and those are specifically for fall type places. But I need to. I remember thinking that while I was in there, I was like, Johnny wouldn't be happy with my my decision here to do that. But
and a lot of these cameras, over the years, running cameras for almost 20 years now, like 15. A lot of it is inventory. You have to have your boots on the ground and learn the area. Because, so many summertime, spring scouting into summer, dropping cameras. I'm planning so many years I've planned where I'm going to be, whether it's the first week of October up into the rut, maybe, through October anyways. And more times than not, there's variables that come into play that where you thought or you planned on hunting, it's not even good. Whether, it's like, are there cherries this year? Acorns. This is going to all change how these deer are going to live from the September in through the first, it's that month, that 4 weeks, like early mid-September into October. Other guys are scouting. Did they clear cut an area? Did they cut this area? They spray it. They're putting well roads in. There's like more times than not over the years trying to having all the knowledge I have and experience, trying to pick and plan my hunt for, the rut is a little different. It's kind of crazy, but trying to harvest that animal the first week of October up to the third week. More times than not, I find myself the first week of October sitting here thinking I'm pathetic and I don't know anything about deer. And I sit here, I'm like, what do I know? Because I've no idea where to go because something changed. Something's off. They're not doing where I want, or they're not in this cut and they moved. And it's just like, it's, yeah, you always got to be, even into that first week of October, I'm putting a ton of miles on because I kind of might have nothing set in stone. Last year, not this hunting season, the hunting season before, Pete and I were hunting this North Slope, monster rubs, but it was into November. And I think the deer that lived there in October when he's making all these monster rubs, there were springs, a lot of browse. I think come rut, he moved off. So I said, man, next year, which was this past year, I said, I'm getting cameras in here, whatever was in here. I mean, monster rubs was living here. As long as he lived, he'll be here this year, right? So I went down like mid-September, to hang a stand. And I hung a stand and I found that 2 like single oak trees loaded with acorns. I'm like, this is it. This is the only stand I need to hunt this year. So I hung a stand between these 2 oak trees. Like one's here and one's here, these 80-year-old oak trees. I'm in between, lower in elevation. The thermals are pulling North Slope. I'm like, this is the only stand I have to hunt all year. This is a no-brainer, right? Because I rarely put stands up.
When you told me you were putting a stand up, I was like, man, there's got to be a spot.
Never hunted it. That buck didn't come back. Maybe, and there was other patches of acorns around, and maybe someone shot them. I had some decent bucks, but nothing like how that buck lived in that spot and rubbed that hoary up. There was no rubs this year. It showed up. So it's like, I put this stand up thinking I'm like, man, I'll probably be tagged up October 1st, 2nd, dude. It's going to be like shooting fish in a barrel. It's going to be too easy. I'm like, never hunted it. Went down there, pulled it, made many trips down that mountain on that North Slope, checking the camera through October, waiting for him to show up. At nighttime, I did probably 4 trips down there, 400 foot down, 400 foot up, 400 foot down, 400 foot up. So that's an example to where,
well, you always say it about having, spots, having multiple spots, as many spots as you could possibly get to, and that helps with having that catalog of spots over the years. The more experience you have to be able to bounce to and be able to check, because it is so rare that plan A works out the way you think. And honestly, I almost hate it now when I find those spots that are so good that you think it's like a no-brainer like that, because I'm like, what is going to happen?
Yeah.
What is going to go wrong?
Yeah.
Because and that's how I felt in Ohio, in that spot that was, in the first place I went to, that was your area, that you had this, I found that camera that you thought was stolen and it had this date on. I was like, man, this big old buck was there every day in daylight, end of November, into December, during gun season. Nobody's back there. It's safe. I relied so heavy on that for a day and a half, not turning my brain on to notice that the acorns were gone at that point. They were there in the fall when I hunted in October, and it was good. And I saw them up on the hill, and that's a whole nother story. But being able to recognize it, but I was so set on that spot being good.
It's such a balancing act. I said, like with the balance scale, it's like, got to rely on that historical data. It happens every year, but then it doesn't happen. So I hate telling people how to hunt. I rarely say, this is how you hunt a scrape. This is how you hunt mountain buck. This is how I just want to give like tidbits of knowledge, what I've learned, because there's no what is right and what is wrong. It's not there, because it's not a constant. It might be right at one time, but it's not. I can't tell you that it's a constant.
Yep.
It's evolving and changing to where you're going to do it here, hunt it, but nope. like, oh, that was a hot spot where you said he was in October or whatever the previous year. That's a no-brainer. But going to it, then like you put so much weight into that, and then it's like it's garbage. So you got to put weight into something else.
Well, it is very hard because you have such small windows of time. You think of like the summer, and you've got a little bit more consistency for 3 months of it, but in October, and so many things are changing.
Yeah,
their hormones are changing. The rut's about to happen. Food sources are changing sometimes weekly. A frost happens, and all of a sudden they're feeding on this,
right.
and it's gone. And there was goldenrods in this patch, and now they're all down from the snow. And it's like things are changing so fast and rapidly through it. But one thing that I'll say, like to your point on nothing being 100% a constant, but given those tidbits for anybody that's listening to it and being like, yeah, well, what the heck? But what you do, at least from what I've seen, is like with you having all that experience, and the longer I've hunted and have a bunch of experiences, it helps you bounce better because you like, okay, I've seen this other thing happen. All of a sudden, say you go on this other ridge and there's these acorns. Oh, well, a couple years ago I had this scenario. This is what they're doing. It gives you that shortcut to go check this out and be like, oh, this is the thing to.
Yeah, you start to recognize patterns.
Yes,
and these are just like, and then you can draw conclusions to that based off of experience. But sometimes I even said it here recently. Someone that. When you have so much data in your head and so much time in the woods, you've almost seen too much to where like anything's possible. And it's sometimes to have like you or someone or a cameraman be like, there's the obvious, Sean. Well, it's obvious even for mature deer, but I've seen them do this. So I start getting my averages in my, like that happens, starts getting, it's not as concentrated because I've seen a bunch happen. You know what I mean? It's starting like, it's not like a bunch of points and what, it's like concentrated. You put enough time in. Okay, it's just strung out like there's flyers.
Yep.
And I start recognizing these flyers in their behavior and what they do. And then sometimes I get to the point again where like, I don't know where. I don't even know. Like you tell me where it goes. I have no fucking clue because I've seen it all, and I'm just like, but sometimes I don't know. You just have to think about it. It's a good problem to have, I guess, to figure these animals out. But yeah, and I think as far as the summertime, leaving the camera soak when you get into that October, sometimes only 5-6 days I'm letting them soak because of the movements and the things changing, and I don't have time to let them soak. It's more like he's here, he come through, or he's hanging out here. We gotta get in here now because it might change again to where I find myself into that October. We get into the end of the first week of October, the 10th or so in that area is when food to me is a little bit of a transition, small, minute transition when food's not all. I mean, that's when it's the ripe, when the food is ripe and ready to be like everything. How God created it is you're starting to come down off of that peak around the 10th, 12th, 14th, 18th, like 20th frost, but that produces food. But other things die off, the onset of winter is coming. And so it's that transition that sometimes is evolving and changing and difficult to, I mean, early, the first week is more food based, but then thinking about rut and falling for does and, hunters are in the woods. There's like, you got to be constantly in the woods, man, constantly. Like I find myself hunting like a morning or evening, or if you ain't got meat on the bone, I just spend all day, and when they get into that mid-October, I just recently was talking to someone about this. You get into that mid-October now, they're starting to be a little more nocturnal. You get a mature deer. So you can probe, I always call it probing. You can probe a lot of the areas because they're not in them where they're, where he's scraping and rubbing and the general population of deer, or he's in these little safe areas. And you can freely walk and explore a lot of areas that he isn't in started to put some pieces of the puzzle together. That's a good thing about mature deer in that mid-October. He's kind of getting into a nocturnal pattern to where you could learn a lot during the daytime. You could pretty much go everywhere. That's what I say, because and I learned that from your dad years ago. He's like, I followed his deer for years. I learned where he isn't. And that's just not one deer. I learned the same thing like this year or just in recent years. I knew about deer that I didn't hunt because I didn't know enough information, but I know where he isn't. So these small, like you could barely walk all through the forest where other deer exists, yearlings, does, 2-3-year-old deer, spook them, run them, chase them out, and he's over here hiding in this one little location. And you can gain a lot of knowledge. That's one good thing about the mature deer is that they hole up in areas, and as long as you don't bug them in those areas.
Yeah.
So, I mean, summertime is definitely inventory, soaking, letting them cameras take a few out, food, water, maybe some drainages, creek crossings, maybe even terrain features, saddles, points, inventory basically. And like I said, I don't put a ton of weight on a lot of those photos unless it's like the transition, or if that's an area we can do a combination where maybe he's here in the summer and in the fall. Like I said, that one spot in West Virginia, I feel like they're up there all year, and that's going to be helpful. But as far as like this area and like even Ohio, some areas I feel like they inhabit the same area all year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, so it's good to have I guess maybe like a combination cameras, summertime into your fall hunting. But I think for the most part in our areas up here, there's more of a transition from the summer. And I think maybe them other areas like Ohio or like West Virginia, mountainous Maryland areas, I feel like there's sometimes there all year. There's not as much as a transition. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which I know that, and I don't have a lot of experience in these types of areas, but just from talking to a bunch of people that hunt places that might be a mountain and then it goes down and there's lowland ag, and they'll have transitions there where they can glass bucks down in that low country, and that ag country in the summer. And then there's the shift as, it starts to go to fall, they move up into
acorns and stuff. But yeah, you're exactly right. That is definitely more of the clear cuts, the food plots, the ag, to where you're going to get a shift. But when you get in some vast forest, I think, like even maybe New Hampshire or Maine or these areas that are vast wilderness, West Virginia, that they live there, But
well, I will say too, the some of the places like with in the summertime for camera locations, like if you're not sure, you're like, okay, I don't know what they're exactly browsing on. Say it's a new area you've been to, you don't know the types that are in there. Just go and look at it. Like as far as you can see where they're starting to browse, like you talked about a clear cut. Say we're just give a clear cut as an example, or a logging cut, could be select, whatever. But you got a bunch of blackberry briars. You'll find sections that aren't browsed on at all. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden you go through and there's something that's knee high. You could see across. It's like, well, like you said, you'll drop a camera there and having it. And this something that I've done more recently, say last 5-6 years. When you and I went scouting, we did a video on it. It's on my YouTube channel from years ago in the summertime. We went into some spots and did that where I wasn't as much even in the summertime, and I'll still run them on scrapes sometimes near some of those areas they're browsing, because the way I look at it is that it can still be used later on then to be able to see it, but just throwing them on those openings where they're browsing and eating there. Like you say that corner of a cut where there's a bunch of browse. I've seen you do it, just throwing cameras up just on that opening. Mm-hmm. It's not on a scrape, or it's not on anything specific. It's just kind of on that area they're feeding and crossing through and milling around in, more so than like in the fall where it's a little bit more, you're on this trail crossing, you're on the scrape or whatever.
Yeah, and I've seen them in these cuts up here, like I go spotting at night, and how some of these areas they leave the treetops and stuff, and I'm talking like late into August, when the easy browsed plant life is mowed down, like the weed whacker. I see them a lot of times with the treetops and the walking over, like their nose takes them, and that's where the succulent food is now, because this was browse, and I seen them walking through like over treetops and shit to get into that stuff. So they're and there is more of a, when they're browsing, just their nose is taken to that fresh. They're going to eat in a certain area that they like, but then they're going to move off, but that certain area is kind of where you can see it really a variety of plant life, a lot of fresh young tops that they ate on. They're still in a location, but yeah, I've seen them just walk through over tree tops and around stumps, like where you wouldn't even think a deer would navigate. As we're like, I'm not going over there, but that's where the food's at. They're just going to follow it. But, like dead logs and shit like that help funnel them around, just kind of like walk those cuts, the edges of places they might access, the downwind side. Maybe I even found water puddles where they skitter maybe come through.
I would say skitter trails will puddle up with water,
and that's good water. I always look for deer drinking of that, but just variety, Like you said, water is important, where they're browsing, visibly browsing.
Yep.
And I've even seen faint trails coming in and out of the forest where I've seen bucks use them. You get in the summertime, it's almost more of a point A to point B. In some, like I said, you start recognizing little patterns. It's not to where, like, I know he's coming out of the woods on this trail.
Yep.
An active trail where you could see an actively used trail because they're using it enough to where the browse isn't covering it. You get the leaves are bent over or whatever, so even just that's a good situation to catch them coming into that area. But I think for the most part, it's anymore to me, seeing so many flyers and variables, it's inventory. This deer exists.
Yeah, that's I agree. And the something I think is like, I was thinking about it, and from like, it seems like it's like I'm dumbing it down, but it honestly makes sense in the summertime. Is a lot in the summer, bucks tend to be in bachelor groups more and stuff. It's like, if you're just seeing deer, you're walking through the woods, seeing a buck, and maybe it's not a big buck, but maybe start looking around in that area, because there could be a big one that's living somewhere at that time of year, with that bachelor group that's in there, and trying to look for it, see where they're browsing, see where that food is, that water, or in areas like, because like you were talking about those cuts, sometimes they get so much sun in them that they're not wanting to be there in the daytime, and being down off the ridge, those north slopes. If you get a north slope with some dark timber of like, hemlock or pine or anything else like that in there, and some spring seeps, all of that. And like, to me, that's like a really good spot to find a deer in the summertime. And even in those places, it could be good early season too, those north slopes.
For sure. A lot of the season. Yeah.
A lot of the season.
And then you have some of your cuts that have the beech brush that's grown in bushes. And I've been in some cuts that deer are actively laying in the daytime. I'm not saying this don't happen. I'm just taking some areas that, I'm drawing from areas that I'm hunting recently, but there's another area that has a lot of beech brush and some of them big mature trees. So it's shady. I've been in areas with a nice breeze blowing too. I don't know if that downwind, it just kind of, they'll live there. And talking about, and it's not always the case, but usually you get a mature buck. They usually bachelor up with another mature deer, or they're isolated, and it seems like they hang out with the same age class animal, in the summertime to some degree. I mean, that's not always the case.
Yeah. Well, I just had a guy on the podcast. He's from the Northeast. I just had him on this past week. So at the time anybody listening to this, I'm not sure if this episode will come out first or the one with Pat did, but his name's Pat Burns, and he shoots some giant deer. And he was talking about him hunting this magnum. I don't think he ever said it on the podcast, but I'm guessing this deer was over 200 inches that he shot. And he might have went downhill a little bit the year that he shot him, but it's still just a ridiculous deer. But there was a deer that ran with him in the summertime that was younger, and after he killed that buck, that other one started picking up and doing the same thing as that one, almost like that was his mentor.
Yeah,
through those years of like learning from him, and I don't believe he actually ended up killing that deer, but he goes, I was pretty confident that I was going to shoot him almost out of the same tree. Like he was doing some of the same things that were was going through it. So that was just, I don't know, just a side note. But looking back on some of like because like it's really tough to generalize and say depending on where you're at of summertime of getting it, but I mean, whatever the food source is in the summer is good. Their guard's down a little bit more than it is, during hunting season, trying to find that from an inventory standpoint. But I have had a good amount of luck on scrapes in the summertime as well, near those places. And my strategy with scrapes overall has changed through the years of like, as far as like me freshening them up. I used to use it a lot more on licking branches, the forehead gland scents and stuff there. I do that more in the summertime, and I don't really touch them in the fall as much. I just don't carry it as much. But in the summertime, I think you can freshen that up, and I'll still dig the dirt up too in the summer, even if they're not going to do it, because deer just love fresh dirt to come over and check it out. But it just gives them that location to go over and take a look at.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I'm not going to speak a lot on it yet because I'm still doing research on it. But there was a study that came out of the University of Georgia, and I think I'm going to do a whole podcast on it. But where they did a study about how scrapes and rubs give off UV light, and that's one of the ways how deer can see them.
What?
Yeah. And they were talking about it mostly not as much like the licking branch. At least this is from my research so far, but more of like the ground. Will like glow when they urinate in it, like it glows and it's able to see it. And same thing with rubs, and it's the fresher the rub is, the brighter it'll be versus once it dims later on. So that was just kind of a neat thing I picked up on. But I was reading through the whole study and I was putting together some notes. I'm gonna do a podcast just kind of reviewing it, but anyways, scrapes have been something that I've used. Some scrapes that are good in the summer are not good. They might be good into September and then they stop. But there's others that I have found that I will get bucks on in the summer, and that I'll also get October into November. So it's there's a lot of trial and error I've found with that.
You're right.
Of just learning, and some of it I don't know if I could even put it into words of why. Yeah. It's just trying it and learning from it. I guess.
Know the one area I just sent you that picture of us checking that scrape years ago.
Yeah.
I was looking through an SD card and there was a picture of Bo. Shit, that was probably 4 or 5 years ago. And that was a scrape that I found it in the fall, and I would put a camera on it like all summer, and it was tons of mature does, with their fawns, like really actively using it. And then I didn't get any big deer into the fall. But there was a lot of does using that scrape in the summer. No bucks at all touched it in the summer. Maybe a yearling, but it was wild. Like going through them pictures is just, and I know a lot of doe live there, and they always do.
Well, and so here's another example of an area that's done good for me. So you remember that big set of sheds? I found that real heavy set. It was a mainframe 8, but he had some junk coming off of them a few years ago. I found 2 years of his sheds in the same day.
Yeah.
In that
this is where we were turkey hunting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, in that drain. So I left a few years ago, the last 3 or 4 years, I ran a camera or I guess 2 or 3 years at the bottom of this hub down towards the bottom of it. It's kind of a rocky drainage, and there's a scrape there. I put it out in the spring just because, and I checked it, and summertime, a lot of activity. Next year, summertime, a lot of activity. It was like summertime and late season, that spot is good. And middle of the year, not very good. But I left a camera right, actually pretty close to the road where we drove, and I pointed down in there. I said I had a camera like 50 yards down in that drain.
Yeah.
it's a cell camera from last year. It's just still been running. And just in the last week, I started picking up some like mature velvet bucks coming down into that drain. And there's no cuts in that spot. It's all just, forest that's coming through there. And I think that hill is just, there's a bunch of spring seeps are going through there. When you're down in there and it's shaded, it's just cool.
Yeah.
It's nice. There's a bunch of moss and stuff that grows on those, and lichens that grow all through there. I'm thinking that's must be what they're feeding on down in there and spending time. But I'm glad I didn't pull that camera because I'm learning some stuff.
Yeah, the mature woods, there's, man, if there was no clear cuts, they would survive in mature woods.
Yeah, and they do in a lot of places.
Yeah, there aren't cuts. So, I mean, they are definitely in the mature woods. Also, on the way up here, I know of a couple areas that have natural mineral licks.
Yep.
And I was going to do a little video on it. But when I was up here in May, turkey hunting, maybe around Memorial Day, and it must have been the salt from the road. There's a ditch. And middle of May, you just have the green kind of glow starting in the forest along the roads and stuff. But then you just see this brown bare spot in the deer trail coming right to it. I was just driving the road and like driving and looking off the edge of the road the whole time for 4 miles looking for. So that one I knew about it just kind of like when I was on my way up here. So I run a camera on it years ago, and it was does. It was right along the road. Didn't have one buck use it, so I haven't put a camera on it. But it got me looking for them natural licks because that's when they need it coming out of not as much in the summer, but yeah, they'll still use it. But I think spring,
Yeah, I just put a
summer.
camera on one that I had good luck on before with cameras. And this was like an old gas well that there's just like water that runs out of this pipe in the ground, and it must have minerals mixed in with it because the deer just pound.
It's crazy.
And this was the first time I looked at it it was during turkey season, so in May, and I was like, I've never seen so many tracks, and just like it looked like that you would just be dumping minerals into the spot but it's not like from when I had found it. It's literally bubbling out of
that's wild,
out of the water that comes through there. I've been meaning to talk to the game wardens about it and just see what the legality of cameras. I mean, you're not doing anything with that, but as far as like hunting anywhere near it, and now that they're not really eating minerals or needing it during that time of year, but I have seen some. I think it could be a good area overall, but anyways, those obviously if you're able to do minerals,
private land, that's easier.
That's nice. You can pull them from a lot of places.
Yeah, we're talking about areas we can't put no bait and minerals. So if people are listening to this, I'm just gonna put a salt block.
Yeah, easy. The easiest thing for summertime is just put out food.
And I think even in the past when we were allowed, I think up through July, then I feel like it faded off.
Yeah,
probably the first couple weeks of July, then it probably got the minerals they need.
It always seemed like in West Virginia on my lease that I have there, it's private land. You're allowed putting bait out whenever, but I'll put salt blocks out during I put them out in February typically when I'm scouting there or in turkey season, and they tend to hit them through middle of August there, and then it shuts down. And you'll have a doe or two here or there that might come over and lick the ground, but it's not the same. But I wanted that just brought up something. You were talking about those cuts where they get like the beach brush or anything that creates almost like a canopy of like coolness a little bit, even though it looks really open around there. Same thing with autumn olives. If you get reclaimed cold country, is that creates like this canopy of shade for them. When Jason and I were hunting turkeys, we noticed that the turkeys later in the morning would go into those autumn olives. Like, why do they want to go in this thicket? But once you got past the wall, you got underneath there, it was kind of open.
Yeah.
But it was 10 degrees cooler than it was out in the sun. It was almost like they were down in the woods, which was just interesting to pick up on. And I've seen it with deer as well, because I started with when I was learning that area in West Virginia. of being down in the timber more, down lower. I was like, they're not going to want to be up where the sun shine in those autumn olives, but they get shade under once you get in that canopy too. So
yeah, that's cool. You get definitely shade is a big thing. And talking about the one cut with the beach brush, there's some well roads, and me and Jason, the old snide, jumped 2 big bucks there, right in between these wells, like downwind a little bit of the road coming into that area, but just a heavily worn bed. I put cameras on it, and them big bucks used it through the summer, but then they had abandoned it come October. But another thing I'll do in the summer here when I'm in up at my camp is before dark I'll ride the roads. You see a lot of deer. Not saying you can't see them all any time of the day, but like not so much now June, but I will sometimes because you can start to see what a mature deer looks like, and you could tend to see them in the same areas June into July into August. And just for example, the one I showed you the horns of, a deer I was hunting, he kind of hung out in an area and browsed. There's well roads and some cuts, really active with vehicles, and I caught him all the way up into the day before archery, or right, like he was still living in them well roads, and I put cameras around, and I think he just knew he's an older deer. Like, it's time, it's archery season. Leaves are starting to fall. No, not then, but man, it was just
starting to change.
He made a shift, and I found his horns almost 2 miles away, but he lived right into archery season. I mean, like, it was right in there, because I remember even hunting right there along all them roads and looking for him, but he already made that shift. But then another deer that you and I saw up on a hill when we took a ride one evening, it was a big 10-point. That deer ended up getting killed close by. He was just across the valley. So he didn't really, a younger deer, he didn't really make any transition. To some degree, he was in the same valley. But that older one, he went way up the valley, and not as many people go. That's where I found his shed. But yeah, it's just, they're all individually different to do different things. But, once they get to that 5+-year-old, they know when they don't take chances to where they need to get, man. Hunters are starting to come in the area and hike and scout, and they're just like, I don't want to take a chance. I'm just going to move them back to where I can be alone. But definitely riding the roads in the evenings, taking pictures of deer, and even spotlighting.
Yep.
Hitting these areas, July, August, deer out at night. And
if you're in a state that's allowed.
Yeah. And it's weird though. You'll get, even on your trail cameras, you let it soak in the summer, and you get a picture like June 24th. Then you get a picture like July 8th. And sometimes I look at it, it's like, wait, that ain't the same deer, but they put on almost an inch a day to where you get them June 24th. It might be a week later. It's like, no, that buck's bigger. No, he grew already that much. So sometimes it's kind of hard for me. I got to really look at the picture. Not the same, because it's almost like days, a week. Is that the same deer? No, it's a bigger one. I was like, yeah, no, it's the same deer. He's putting on a lot of horn that fast. End of June into July is the bulk of that growing.
Well, and there's deer, we were talking about it before we started recording, but there's deer that are early growers, and then some that are late, some that they'll put on a lot of their inches through June, and you think it's going to be like, oh, I want to see how long his tines are going to get, and then he might not get much bigger. And then there's others that are like, you could tell they're a nice deer, but then all of a sudden they blow up in that first 2 weeks of July.
Yeah, and that one I was telling about that I got the shed to, and he moved up the valley, like, I seen him earlier, and he was going like this. I was like, oh, man. That was probably, I don't know, mid-June or something last year. But then I caught him, like, in July. Like, anyways, the time frame between I first saw him, it was like, he started out looking good. Then he just kind of like, he stayed here. And I saw him again. He was just like, I'm like, he's done. It was like middle of July. I'm like, he's done.
Yeah.
And he was actually on his way down, and I'm anxious to see. I think he's alive this year, but yeah, he grew early, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's looking good. He's going to be good. But then he just leveled out around the, end of July, and it's like he was like mid July. You know, it was like he's the only thing. And then you see him I see him a fair amount of times. Like he's damn it. But I learned that over the years.
I forgot we did that a lot last year. You did, and same, which I know you do it a decent amount, but I did a lot more last year of driving to places and glassing, you know, from the roads.
Mhm.
And then I've even hiked into some places and glassed 3-year-old clear cuts where you can still get a vantage point and watching these deer come, and it's fun to do that and see it. And I tend to, like, the last week of July into August is where I want to start doing that if I can. But it's just fun to,
especially a cool evening.
Yeah,
like they're going to be moving. Yeah, I seen that buck last year. I think it was, and I have some cameras that are back off the road. How I say you could kind of like check some areas. You get enough cameras there. You have some next to the road. So even though I'm letting them soak for the most part, in these cuts and whatever, some of them are like, there's a well road, there's a road. I got a camera here. Let's
go check it.
It's fun. So you go check them. But yeah, that deer, I was going to check it. It was like, it was maybe 4 or 5 o'clock, and I wanted to check cameras. So I was coming up to put cameras out, but I was here a day early, and it was like, I tend to want to get checking cameras when it's really hot, to where I feel like they're not moving as much, but they're always moving, but maybe a little more in the evening. And I'm going to go check a camera, and it was like 3, 4 o'clock. It was hot. And that big 10-point standing right along the road eating. And he just looked at me like, and there was like, I'm like, man, this sucker's up and moving already. You know what I mean? But
was that that wasn't the one we saw up on that hill?
No, that one's the one that got killed.
Yeah.
And this is the one
that one, the shed's over there.
Okay. Yeah. He was hanging out,
just chomping.
Like, lived right there. I'm like, man, if I can get, and that's in that first week of October, I seen him cross the road, same area, like right there at the hills of hunting season. And I went there hunting once or twice, but I just had the feeling like he's gone already, and left them cameras, and I kept checking them. And like I said, he went up the hollow about a mile and a half.
I mean, that deer is your new big 8, although he's a 10 of like I feel like you've been so close on that deer, but not at the same time for so long, like, of like really good plans and like the craziest things happening. Yeah. That one year when I went with you and we scouted around that beaver pond.
Oh, I thought for sure that was it.
I was like, you had that. He was done, because the year before he was in early season. He was in there browsing, and everything was like perfect scenario. You knew so much about that deer, and what did they do in August? Sprayed
it. Oh man, all that scent nut herbicide went down, and it was like a ghost town, man.
Yeah,
I was MFing, dude.
Yeah, you just got to go after Kenny,
But this year, that was 2 years ago. So now we're getting to where the first year I found it was 2 years after a cut spray.
So maybe that history and what you learned of him might repeat this year.
Yeah.
Except for now he's smaller.
He's going down, but I'll shoot him.
Well, he's old.
He's an old deer.
Yeah.
But I found they cut trees. They're going to put a well in there anyways, so it'll probably be good till the first week of October. It'll be bulldozer in there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. What you got to do is you just got to bid on that job, so that you get
I put a little delay on it.
You have to put a delay. You're like, soil's not right.
Just we got some other work we got to get to.
Maybe you get that deer used to your dozer.
Ooh.
And then you use that for access.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just pull down, you just sit in that.
Let that sucker run and be covered noise and just hide.
You let it run up there, and then you sneak down and slide up into a tree.
And I know a lot of those deer, the mature deer, they hear the log and cutting, and they're in tight to that stuff.
Oh yeah. As soon as everything shuts down. I mean, I've talked to so many loggers. It was like, as soon as those skidders shut off, as soon as their equipment shuts off, it's like the deer just like funnel in. They're not even leaving yet. They're cleaning up their stuff for the day, and deer funneling in like they're laying there.
Yeah. And I feel like just them listening to that noise and being close by, I don't know, some of them older deer, like, they're not bothered right there.
Mm-hmm.
The guys that's not a threat to them. And the hunters are going, oh, I ain't going there. I'm going back in the woods. And then he's like, well, I can just hang out right by these guys, these workers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They seem like good dudes.
Yeah, they're all right. They ain't bothering me. They're producing food for me. And everybody's going back in the woods. Oh, we all say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they cut that area. Guys got Buddha, log skeeter, chainsaw runner. You get all mad. And meanwhile, the bucks are just laying there right next to them. And we're like, I'm not hunting near there. I'm going back in the woods. I can't get away from it, guys.
Yeah. That's so true. But that one deer that got shot that we saw, it was like, I don't know, it felt like I was in a movie when we were driving, down that road and saw him up on the hill, and like the sun was just, going down, and it was like he was like silhouetted up there, big rack. I'm like, oh my.
That's the one deer I wanted to make because he has genetics. He was a young deer.
Yeah. And when you said that, I was like, that's a young deer. Because like just seeing it from down there, his rack was just like disproportionate to his age.
I had the shed here. I gave it to the guy who killed him. I said, here's his horn. I missed him last year. And when I missed him, I said, phew, he was a young deer, maybe a 3-year-old, 120s, 2 or 320s. And then he blew up to mid 40s as a
4-year-old.
3 or 4, 19, 20 inside. Big, like his beams didn't start finish grown. He was like this, one of these deals.
Really?
I'm like, man, this sucker gets a couple more years. Dang it. And I know the guy shot it, and he showed me, like, young guy. And I'm like, oh, like, hey, I'm glad. It's like, this is the deer I didn't want, but I know you. I'm glad. No, I said, I'm like, here's his horn. I'm glad someone had got it that I know,
Yeah, no, that's
I would have
awesome.
shot him, probably.
Yeah.
I didn't hunt that area.
Yeah, that's I have those deer in places where I'm like, I need to take me out of the picture because I'm not gonna have
you're gonna kill.
I'm gonna shoot them. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it should be fun, but yeah. So yeah, I think it'll be a good year though. I think things are seemingly off to a good start, seeing bucks around starting at the time of recording this. Time this goes out, it'll be closer towards the end of June where there's more growth happening. But right now we're June 6th, like you're starting to see some things happen. It's just getting me excited. I know that
for sure. And like I said, getting them cameras out, get a bunch out there. And then when you get to the, like up here at camp, it gives us something to do. Hey, I'm going to go check a couple cameras. Not that I'm going way back in the, forest, maybe along the road. And it's always a learning and a good experience, and keeps you in the woods and hiking. And you can't never have enough cameras, really.
I've not been in the woods much. Like I said, I was out this morning a little bit, but we've been putting a roof on camp. So got to keep the deer camp maintained, and we waited a couple years too long. So it's
as you said, it's taking some extra work.
Taking some extra work, but we're gonna have a nice metal roof on there now, and it looks good. So we went with which I typically don't like this color. It's like that, like dark green, but it looks really good with that stained wood siding.
I bet it does.
It looks really good. So, but all of us have put roofs on before, but never metal roof. And I thought that would have been easier. But when you don't know things, like just doing, you're doing the rake, or you're doing the what's it called? The drip edge. You're doing any of that stuff. It's just different than what you're used to doing with other things. And so we're getting it. We've been just working in the evenings after work, couple hours a night on it. And
that's cool.
Yeah, so we're doing, and Kurt, kept screwing everything up.
Oh, you know it. You probably should have fired him. He keeps coming back.
Well, it's funny. This is how brothers work together. But every time he'd screw up, he'd put a screw, and he'd miss the furring strip or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I'd obviously take a picture of it and him, or a video of him screwing up, and he'd do the same to me. I was I was kind of like documenting a little bit of what we were doing working there, and it's all just like me and Kurt screwing up on things.
That's funny.
But that's a part of it when you have a camp, the maintenance of it, and keeping up with all those things is always fun.
Yeah, that's half the fun of having a camp. I got to cut firewood, and Yeah, cut the grass.
Get everything ready so once deer season hits, you can
don't do
really
nothing. Yeah.
enjoy it.
Just stay in the woods.
Stay in the woods, come back at camp, hang out at night.
Yeah.
It's, that's the fun part about it. Also, we were talking about beforehand, we've got your setup here in front. So just a little bit about some gear stuff here. So you were running the Kunai last year, and so the Timber Ninja Kunai, but you put a new system on here to run your sticks on the back.
Yeah, I'm experimenting with trying to have a system, I don't know if you want to call it a system, or everything packed in one,
system
pack. So I did take these. I'm still working on it, but I have like this J hook piece of like 1/4 inch with J hook and then threads with a wing nut here, and I was just I ran it down through this bottom. I don't know, what do you call this piece here that you fasten the sticks to the tree bow?
Oh, the dog ears or
yeah. So
yeah.
And I didn't catch it both because it's just
because those were designed. Those are for a lone wolf stand,
yeah,
right? Zach Robb made those.
Yeah,
right?
Zach gave me those. So I think what I want to do is make a longer, or maybe a 2-piece, like a wing nut up here with a J hook, and just run it down through each dog ear. Boom, boom. I just like having either carrying a platform, having one thing to pack instead of two, where you have your stack of sticks and your platform. So I'm going to kind of experiment with something like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I'll just throw this on my backpack. Use the straps on my pack to just put this on and ready to go. Yeah, like a packable system there for.
Yeah, because the C2 sticks have the magnets built in, so like you're able to, if you don't want to, you don't have to run through both dog ears. It just depends on how you, how easy you want to come apart. But
depends on how you pack it on your pack. I'd be afraid of losing a stick
if it got snagged on a branch or something.
But unless you pack over with your backpack or however you carry it, but for sure I'm going to use the mini.
Oh yeah, we got the
early season, in and out quick. To where I would pack, maybe even throw that in my backpack, and my sticks separate. So I'll have two items to carry in. But I think early season, if I do get up in the mountains, like hiking way in hot, like I've done a few early season hunting trips last year, packed at the bigger Kunai. So I feel like this is going to be a lot easier to just less weight, and probably only going to hunt for 2 to 3 hours max.
Yep.
So I'm anxious to really use this year, just for the packability, probably up until late October. I'll probably run it just for the fact that I'm not going to be in a tree that much.
When you still have that distance here to somewhat be able to stand on.
If you can get the tree leaning away from you, which I always look for.
Yep.
That adds, if you take 5-6 foot and it fades back 3 or 4 inches, that's giving you some extra body room.
Yep.
To stand on. But yeah, it's gonna help out having a little more, a little lighter platform, smaller. But I would pack that one. But now that we have this option, it's a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, for the earlier season
for sure
stuff. So so for anybody that's listening here, the MK, it's the new platform from Timber Ninja. It weighs 2 pounds, so it's the same thing as the Kunai. MK just stands for Mini Kunai, real unique name, but it's
good. I think it's good, catchy, the Kunai and the Mini Kunai. Like
I believe a dimension. I think it's 12 inches by 11 or 12 by 12, something like that. But there's no post on it, so it gives you more room. It almost acts as a 14-inch. Platform with it, because you have no posts, you have all the foot room on there. You can angle it down a little bit if you like leaning on it that way. I like it being flat so I can stand on it if I need to. I still like the regular Kunai is my favorite platform. Mm-hmm. I like the big platform, standing on it, leaning. But like you said, early season, you're scouting. If you can shave a couple of pounds off of it,
it's hotter out. Yeah,
it's hotter out, and you're just sitting for a few hours. Like, man, this thing is
for sure
so nice for that. We just did the safety. We did the safety. We sent all of our platforms, our saddles, our sticks to a third party to get tested. And I was going to look up the message I got from Jason here of what it failed at. It was impressive. Now this is not the weight rating, so make sure that nobody thinks that, but it was, hold on, I don't have service here, so it's taking me a second. There it is. Jason said MK passed testing and failed at 1,527 pounds.
Wow,
so that's what it took to with pulling down on it. That's what it took to anything. Nothing broke. It just the bottom leg started to bend.
So that's some type of pressure coming down. 1,500 pounds of pressure.
So they hook up to it and they pull.
Oh, pull.
They pull on it. So I'm not gonna. I have the. So I went to school for safety for 4 years and did it professionally for 10 years, but I can't remember the ASTM standard that we go by for testing. But it's for tree stand, saddle platforms, like all that kind of stuff. We have it all done by a third party, so it's super stable. You can lean on the side of this thing. It's not going to move. It's not going to shift on you. You get it set right, and they'll all come with cam buckles this year. So the Kunai and the mini Kunai are going to come with cam buckles. If you want to run the ropes like the SSPs, we have those available, but the cam buckles are just the simplest option out there. You switched to one last year anyways, and like what I do is I'll just tape them up. I think on the, I just tape up the cam buckle so it doesn't make any noise, slapping against the metal. And I'll actually take this platform like you did, or no, that's my platform, isn't it?
It's yours, yeah.
Oh, okay.
You got tape on it.
I was like, man, you did it the same
I didn't
as
tape
me.
mine up. I didn't have issues with my feet on the platform. I didn't tape none of my Kunai up.
Really?
At all.
So I like to tape it, and I actually put a little bit of grip tape on the top.
Yeah, I remember you said you did that.
Because like the thing about when you anodize a platform like this, it's really good as far as holding up so that paint stays on there for a long time, but it can make it a little bit more slick. But we tried like some other like rubberized type coatings, and it doesn't hold up nearly as well. So the option for me is like, if you can just throw tape on it and anything else that costs $5 for a roll that'll last you the life of having it, it's like, do that if you want it. If you don't, leave it bare. But I like it because sometimes I get clumsy and all of a sudden it'll bang off something and I want to deaden that sound.
Yeah, you're right.
If possible. Now, what was not intentional when we designed the mini Kunai was that it could work. Now, Johnny, you were saying you probably wouldn't use it this way, but it could work as a seat for the Kunai. So we'd been working on trying to develop a seat for the Kunai that would be no post, that you set it above. The problem was, and we like the same design, but making it smaller. Problem is the cost of it is still so high.
Yeah, it's not.
So it was like, no one's going to buy this. But if you're already buying a platform that's lightweight for early season and you want something more comfortable for the rut like the Kunai, and you have both of them already, you stack them together, it's still under 7 pounds as a total package, completely flat. You could set this up above it. And even like, so Nathan Killen was talking about it, and he's like, I think I'd run it offset a little bit so it gives you more foot room off of it.
But also, it's another platform that you could stand on.
It could be.
Because I've learned with saddle hunting and these platforms, just being able to swing around a tree, getting low and this and that, like places that you could create an opportunity just from having different elevation, then that's just you getting up another 3 foot. Like, okay, now that limb ain't in the way, but that's something I do when I get in a tree. I'll spin around a tree all the way around a Kunai, and I could create opportunities. Okay, there's a limb in the way when I'm standing. Ideally, I want to stand and shoot off my platform like a traditional stand, but you might have a hole blocked on where he's coming through on a trail, but then you swing around the side and you're like, oh, I could shoot here. So that's something I do when I get up in a tree, is move all the way around, plan where a deer could possibly come from. And okay, if he's coming here, that means I need to swing around the back of the tree, and that because I don't have a option of shooting off the platform. But being at the TAC here the other day, last week, in Seven Springs, there's a lot of guys. I talked to a lot of guys that were just getting into saddle hunting, and worried older people that were worried about shooting and hunting out of the saddle. It's new. I said, hey, I use it as a fall restraint. I'm not always sitting in my saddle. Yes, like I just said, you can get back in your saddle and swing around for options, but ideally, I want to get in that stand and I want to shoot. Everybody practice mainly shooting standing up.
Yeah.
So that platform's big enough for you to take your shots standing up, which I've shot every deer out of my platform, and this is the 3rd year, standing, not sitting in a saddle. Some guys really, with this big platform, that's not an option. A lot of guys, I want to be compact, I want to be small. I said, but you're going to be sitting, standing, facing a tree all day. You're limited on a 180-degree shot.
Yep.
I mean, you not limited on. You'd have to sit back in the saddle and get to the side and shoot.
Yep.
But these guys, like me, when I started, I've been hunting out of climbers and stands for 30 years, and it's like, oh, you're going to sit back in a saddle, and it's like, I don't know if I'm ready for that, but
it takes some practice.
It takes practice, but initially I'm using it as a stand, a platform.
Yep.
So the guys kind of looked at it differently. Okay, you're not jumping from being a stand hunter for 30 years that you got to sit back in the saddle. I was like, you can actually, I show them how I take the tether, lengthen it, throw it over my shoulder, turn around, and I put my back against a tree, and I stand against a tree for hours, or I just stand facing a tree, and then I'll be able to sit down for a little bit, so it gives you more options with that bigger platform than just facing a tree. And
well, the 2 deer I shot out of the Kunai last year, both of mine were standing.
Yeah.
It seems like no matter how I set up, that you want to set up for your strong side shot, I always shoot them off the weak side.
Yeah.
It seems like that's the case, which that's where the Kunai, like I can literally stand up and move my bow over the bridge if I want and be able to, shoot that way, which makes it, really nice with having that. Or like the one in PA, I just stood behind me, and I was pretty much like I stood up in a tree stand, and that's how I, was able to shoot them there.
And I think I think about what deer see, and I don't know, you being back in your saddle, you don't look too much like a human. I don't know if that's what they're looking for, but I like getting tight to the tree, and then being that you're standing there all day, you're like a part of the tree. Kind of, if you got a big enough tree, I just kind of hide tight to the tree. It could be like, but I guess if you're like coming out off the platform, you don't resemble a human. I don't know if that's what they're looking for. Or
you look kind of like a branch.
Yeah, maybe a branch coming out. So there's a little bit to be said about both situations. But I like, and a lot of times I like using a tree as my hiding behind.
You get into spots like there's places that say you get into a select cut. There's not a lot of cover a lot of times.
Yeah,
and that's just it. Sometimes that's where you got to be.
You're right.
And those situations, I love being tight to the tree. Like you're saying, like I want to be like an extension of that tree versus hanging out and like that catches that silhouette up there. I don't care what angle it's going at. If you're moving at all, you're getting picked out.
Movement's a big thing. And if you can get on the back side of that tree, because there's a lot of times you're in them cuts or them open areas, you don't have an option of having cover.
Yeah.
But I want to hunt, so I'll try to hide tight behind that tree and stand, but have the bow hung. Here's the tree here or here, and just not being in a small platform to where you're in a saddle position, leaning out away from the tree, man. I feel comfortable and I'm in tight to the tree.
Especially like that's the advantage again of that the bigger kunai, especially when you get the leaves start falling off the trees and there's less cover. Early season you can tuck in a lot more places and have cover when you're in the tree, but you get out there. So then being able to stand on it, stay tight to the tree. I mean, now it wasn't under. My dad was actually using our old platform last year, the ledge, but he shot his buck out of it. And if you would have saw the tree that he shot his deer out of, I mean, he was in the wide open, and he was only 10 feet up. But he was behind that tree, and that's what he used as his cover, and he was able to shoot his buck.
And a lot of times I find myself having to be in that wide open in cover's not always the option,
Yep.
But I also like the wide open because you have a 360 degree, you're getting some hemlocks, they kind of limbs hang down, or with a bunch of cover behind you. I always hear people talking about cover to break you up, but what if the deer's behind you? So you're eliminating, you're cutting off you only got a shot of like 180 degrees, not 360.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I like being in a wide open, and I just feel like my hearing's not as good. I'm always standing and watching.
Yeah.
Like the whole time I'm like watching. And what I've learned over the last couple years of filming with a cameraman, if you don't have you don't have another person in a tree, you're only seeing half the deer, guaranteed. I bet on it. There's so many times someone would see a deer, my camera, and I wouldn't see it. Like where I would see it, honestly, and we're both up in a tree looking. So you take one guy, not saying that a deer's going to come in, but it might be like, just hunting with Bill or the cameraman is like, there's an advantage to, I look at the positives of that, but there's advantage because
that's a good point.
I guarantee I'm only seeing half the deer when you're by yourself, you're missing half the deer.
There are many times I joke with guys that are filming with me that it's like, it's a disadvantage because you're having twice the movement, twice the scent.
Yeah.
But like, I like the way you framed it because if you have twice the eyes that are out there looking. And
for me, I got one good set of ears. That's
Yeah.
the cameraman, not mine.
Yeah.
So I got 4 eyes and 2 good ears.
Yeah, even like when we were in Iowa, Thomas was with me. At one point, there was a part where, he was filming and the buck had like kind of left my field of view, and I went to slam the rattling antlers together. I was like, "Can you see him?" He's like, "No, I can't see him with the camera." I was like, "Put the camera down. Look through your binos." So like, we missed the first part of him coming in because he wasn't on the camera, but him having eyes to be able to see when that happened, was allowed me to get ready and
it's an advantage.
Yeah, okay, I like that.
I think now, I think it is for me.
Yeah,
you got 2 brains, you got 2 eyes,
only one set of ears between the 2 ears.
2 brains, 4 eyes, 2 ears.
that works.
I get to the point where I look at Pete. I'm like, Pete, what do you hear anything? Yeah. I said, what's it sound like? Like, I think it might be a squirrel. No, maybe it's a deer. Does it? You hear footsteps? Yeah. Where? Over there. Okay. I wouldn't hear a thing. And then I would look over. I'd be like looking where the deer's coming. I was like, you still hear him? No. He'd be like, no. Wait, I hear him. Where at? He's over this way. No, it's okay.
Are your eyes still good?
Good enough. Good
I like
enough.
It.
Like younger, like Connor or Pete, being with them guys, I could tell they got good eyesight. Just they got 8. Like wow, how'd you see that? Pick up deer way off. Look at that turkey. Looking like. I admit it. They're better than me.
Well, that's where like I think it. God kind of levels the playing field there because you get this experience and you get better. And it's like,
take something away from me.
You have all these senses, plus you're getting better. It's not fair to the deer.
You're right.
You got to take a little bit
away from me. But I got one over because I got a good guy with good eyes.
Yeah, you're cheating the system.
Yeah. I'll bring someone in and got with the tools for the job.
Yeah.
I ain't got him no more. I bring this guy in. Yeah, I remember Connor. I'd be tracking him. He said, there you go. Like when you fall on a set of tracks, he went that way. I'm like, and I'd be like, just seeing the tracks in the snow off 40 yards. And it took me like, how the hell you see them from here?
Yeah.
I could see they disappear at 15, 20, whatever. And then it was on the other hillside, 40. He went that way. I'm like, all right. Well, give me a minute. Let me see. Like, you're right. He was already like one step ahead of me because he's young and he could see and hear. And I was just like,
that's awesome. All right, Johnny. Well, you want to wrap this one up?
Yeah, sounds good, Bo.
Yeah, this was a good one. Well, hopefully, I'm looking forward to. I got a lot of cameras out early, but I still got some more. I got to get out, get some inventory, see if we can find some bucks here in the summertime, and also just getting ready everything else, gear, shooting, all the other fun stuff to get ready. So
I probably got 8 cameras. Some of them in West Virginia. I won't be there for a while. So I got to get. I usually have a good 20, 25 in PA here around my camp. So, but like I said, through July, I should get them all up. Just peck away at it. 3 or 4 here, 3 or 4 there, and look back at my notes, my journal, and notes I take on my phone where I want to scout for the deer that are left over or new areas I want to check,
Yeah. And you're going bear hunting
Yeah.
tomorrow. So by the time this comes out, you'll have a big bear on the ground.
Oh man. Hopefully.
Are you looking forward to that?
I am. Shot that 120-pound last year. It was a little bigger than yours.
Yeah.
But we're getting into the rut of the bear. Like right now, we were a little early last year, so I don't want nothing too big. I don't really care. Like I want the meat.
Yeah.
I really like to. Man, I can't wait to take a big cooler, 2 coolers, and do some fishing and hopefully shoot a bear. Have fun with Bill, and I didn't take I'm not taking a camera. We might, if we can, one of us tag out. We'll just hunt with the other. I'm going to take my kunai and sticks, but they usually have ladder stands. I'll just pop the platform up on the backside and take the saddle.
Heck yeah.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, that will be fun. I'm sure you guys will have a blast, and I leave in less than 2 weeks for Hawaii.
Oh, yeah.
To do the axis deer hunt.
That's cool.
I'm really looking forward to that. Been reading and researching, trying to learn what the heck they are and what they do, and try to learn. So that'll be fun.
Oh, that'd be a good thing to do. That's fun.
Yeah. So everyone listening, good luck with your summer scouting. Hopefully this episode was helpful for you there. If you ever have anything, I mean, this episode came from you guys reaching out and saying, got to get Johnny on, do some summer scouting talk, go through that. So reach out, send us messages, what you want to hear, what you want us to talk about, anything like that. And we'd love to be able to entertain it, but appreciate everyone listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Oh, wait, make sure you go check out Johnny's stuff again, YouTube, the Johnny Stewart on YouTube, Instagram, and you got your website up.
Yeah, I haven't promoted it much. I do. I have some hats and shirts, but I might refine what I'm, not refine, change some of the apparel, like colors and stuff like that. I'm sticking with the one logo I made was me packing my Ohio deer out last year. I made a logo hiking a mountain, and the couple shirts I have is the New Hampshire deer and the North Dakota one. But yeah, check out my website. I like I said, I haven't been promoting it much of it. I'm going to work on that here in June going forward into hunting season. I'm going to probably do, like I said, maybe a scouting trip to where I'll put a video out of me hanging cameras. I'm going to try to get maybe late June here, get that out in July so people can still get some knowledge for this year. Try to get that edited and get that out and start maybe promoting some more of my products, my hats and stuff like that.
Nice. Yeah. Well, you got to check it out. What's the website?
The Johnny Stewart, whatever. Look up Johnny Stewart.
I'll put a link in the show notes below.
I'll have to look it up.
So you can check that out.
Johnny Stewart Hunt or something.
And also, I've got the Mountain Buck Scouting video series. Those episodes should be dropping right around this time every Sunday throughout the summer at 8 p.m. I've got at least 9 videos that are going out that were pre-filmed already back in the spring.
Oh, that's cool.
So I'm putting those out. So make sure you check those out on YouTube. Check out Johnny's stuff. His apparel was seen on Rogan.
Bill wore
the t-shirt on Rogan.
He did with my my logo on there. Johnny's had my name in that. Yeah, check that out. Check Bill out.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Awesome. All right, we'll see you guys later. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this conversation, share it with your buddies. Leave us a rating, a review, and subscribe. If you want to check out more content like this, there's plenty in the links below. We truly appreciate having you guys along with us.